Finding yourself on a cruise ship during a Force 12 storm is quite the adventure. Just imagine what the passengers go through. It is an incredibly tough ordeal for those on board. The floor literally drops out from under their feet, and furniture violently slides around in all directions as if it has a mind of its own. When caught in a massive storm, cruise ship passengers are much better off locking down in their cabins. Otherwise, they face the danger of unsecured furniture careening back and forth across the public halls at terrifying speeds. Staying upright during heavy rolling is just as difficult as trying to make your way back to your room once you realize it's the safest place to be. The largest modern cruise ships stretch just over 360 meters in length. Just picture that. It's the size of 3 football fields and almost 100 meters longer than the Titanic, which measured 269 meters. These maritime giants were built relatively recently, less than a decade ago. You might think that the larger the ship, the more concerning it is to brave a massive storm. Yet, experience shows that even these gigantic cruise liners cannot smoothly ride out a 12-point storm. While the waves may not be powerful enough to actually capsize such an enormous vessel, they can easily cause absolute chaos and severe discomfort inside the cabins and throughout the ship. A modern cruise ship is the embodiment of human engineering and the pursuit of comfort. It is a floating hotel where safety and entertainment are paramount. However, as history shows, even the most advanced vessels are sometimes forced to take a survival test against the unforgiving elements. The story of the Norwegian Dawn voyage in April 2005 became a textbook example of how quickly a carefree vacation can turn into a battle against the ocean, and stark proof of the existence of legendary rogue waves. In mid-April 2005, the gleaming white liner Norwegian Dawn, owned by Norwegian Cruise Line, NCL, was completing its week-long cruise. At the time, it was a relatively new vessel, launched in 2002, impressing with its size and luxury. There were approximately 2,500 passengers and about 1,000 crew members on board. Most guests were returning from the sunny Bahamas, having enjoyed stops in Nassau and the company's private island, Great Stirrup Cay. The liner was setting a course for its home port of New York City. The atmosphere on board was relaxed. Passengers were packing suitcases, exchanging impressions, and preparing to return to everyday life. The final leg of the journey ran northward along the east coast of the United States. It is here that the Atlantic Ocean often demonstrates its volatile character, especially in the spring when different air masses collide. As the Norwegian Dawn passed the coasts of Georgia and South Carolina, weather conditions began to deteriorate rapidly. Forecasts warned of bad weather, and the ship's captain, an experienced mariner, did everything possible to minimize the impact of the elements on the ship and passengers. He altered course and speed, trying to skirt the epicenter of the forming storm. However, as sometimes happens at sea, the storm developed faster and became much more powerful than meteorologists had predicted. By the evening of Friday, April 15th, the liner found itself trapped in a severe storm. The wind intensified to storm force, consistently exceeding 40 to 50 knots, about 75 to 90 kilometers per hour, or 45 to 55 miles per hour, with much stronger gusts. The sea turned turbulent, leaden gray, and covered in foam. The waves reached heights of 8 to 10 meters, 25 to 33 feet, which was already a serious test even for such a large vessel. Inside the liner, the holiday was over. The captain ordered passengers to remain in their cabins for safety. The enormous vessel, weighing over 90,000 tons, began to pitch noticeably. Passengers described the experience as being in a giant elevator moving ceaselessly up and down, accompanied by the creaking of bulkheads and the howling of the wind outside the window. Many suffered from seasickness. Entertainment activities were canceled, pools were emptied, and the crew went into high alert mode. The climax of the drama arrived early on the morning of Saturday, April 16th. The liner continued to battle heavy seas, its bow slicing through oncoming swells. Around 6 a.m., when most passengers were still asleep or trying to sleep through the roar of the storm, the unbelievable happened. Out of the darkness of the stormy ocean grew a wall of water. It was a classic rogue wave, an anomalous phenomenon where a single wave, due to a coincidence of circumstances, becomes significantly higher than the surrounding seas. According to expert estimates and testimony from the crew on the bridge, the height of this monster reached 21 meters, 70 feet. This is the height of a 7-story building. The Norwegian Dawn could not rise over such a steep mountain of water. The giant wave crashed down onto the bow of the ship with terrifying thunder. The impact was of such force that everyone on board felt it. The ship shuddered from keel to funnel top as if it had hit a concrete wall. The consequences of the impact were instantaneous and devastating. The water, possessing colossal kinetic energy, reached the height of decks 9 and 10. This is very high above the waterline, and typically these decks are considered completely safe from direct wave impact. Luxury cabins with large windows were located on the bow of these decks. Under the pressure of thousands of tons of water, the thick, tempered glass could not hold. The windows of at least 2 cabins on deck 10 were smashed inward. Following the glass, the ocean burst into the cabins. Torrents of salt water, mixed with shards of glass and window frames, rushed into the rooms, washing away furniture, personal belongings, and shocked passengers who were inside at that moment. The water quickly filled the cabins and spilled out into the corridors. At that moment, localized panic began on board. The corridors on the bow of decks 9 and 10 turned into rushing rivers ankle deep, and in some places higher. The carpet instantly soaked up water, and water began dripping from the ceiling due to leaks between decks. Emergency alarms went off. The crew of the Norwegian Dawn acted professionally and promptly. Emergency response teams immediately arrived at the flooded sections. Their primary task was evacuating passengers from the affected cabins and containing the flooding. The scene that opened before them was frightening. Broken furniture floating in cabins, terrified people, wet and in pajamas, trying to get to safety. Crew members helped people, calmed them down, and escorted them to safe zones of the ship, such as the main atrium or restaurants located closer to the stern and on lower decks where the motion was felt less. In total, 62 cabins were flooded or seriously damaged by water. In addition to the broken windows, the wave also caused damage to the ship's outer hull. Dents and torn railings were later discovered on the bow, testifying to the incredible force of the impact. Miraculously, there were no serious fatalities. Had this happened during the day when people might have been standing near the windows, the consequences could have been tragic. As a result of the incident, several passengers, reports vary from 4 to 10 people, received light injuries, mainly cuts from glass, bruises from falling during the wave impact, or due to severe pitching. They were provided medical assistance in the ship's infirmary. After the wave impact, the captain assessed the situation as critical. Although the ship itself remained afloat and its seaworthiness was not critically compromised, continuing the journey to New York in such conditions with broken windows and flooded premises was impossible and dangerous. A decision was made to urgently change course and head to the nearest major port for shelter and damage assessment. This port became Charleston, South Carolina. The liner, limping and fighting the remnants of the storm, headed for shore. In the port of Charleston, U.S. Coast Guard representatives and repair crews were already waiting for the vessel. Inspectors boarded to ensure the ship was safe for further sailing. Temporary repairs were carried out. Broken windows were covered with steel plates or plywood to prevent water and wind ingress. After the Coast Guard gave clearance, the Norwegian Dawn continued its journey to New York, where it arrived with a significant delay. Instead of a triumphant return, the disembarkation of passengers was somber, and they were met on the pier by numerous reporters eager to hear stories about the tsunami in the ocean. Norwegian Cruise Line faced a serious reputation challenge. Passengers had endured immense stress, their vacation was ruined, and some had lost property in the flooded cabins. Refund of cruise cost. All passengers who were on board were offered a refund of 50% of the cost of the current cruise. Future cruise discount. Additionally, each passenger received a certificate for a 50% discount on any future NCL cruise. Compensation for lost property. For those passengers whose cabins, the 62 rooms, were flooded, the company separately addressed compensation for personal belongings ruined by water, clothing, electronics, luggage. They were also provided a full refund of the cruise cost, rather than 50%.